now we're the largest gang intervention program in the United States. 12,000 gang members a year walk through our doors at our 4th location, which is a huge place over near Union Station in Chinatown. They come in, they'll talk to one of our 4 job developers trying to locate gainful employment outside of our businesses. We have free tattoo removal, 2 laser machines, 12 volunteer doctors, 4,000 treatments a year. And that was all begun because of a guy named Frank who came in 2 days after being released from Corcoran State Prison. And he had tattooed across his forehead, "Fuck the world," from here to here. It was like a damn billboard. And he said, I'm having a hard time finding a job. And I said, well, Frank, maybe we could put our heads together on this one. And so at that point, we had nobody. I went to a doctor at White Memorial, and he said, yeah, I'll give you 1 hour every 3 months. And so our waiting list became many thousands long. It's still 1,000 long. But there's no place on the planet that removes more tattoos than we do. And then we have every imaginable curricular thing like anger management, parenting, domestic violence, healing circles, NA, AA, every imaginable 12-step program. We have a thing called Baby and Me, where our counselors, we have a huge mental health department, they teach homies how to play with their toddlers. So every Friday at 9:30 in the morning, the homies and the homegirls bring their little toddlers. And our counseling staff gets them on the floor, and they sing and they dance and they do all manner of things. And the big, huge, multicolored parachute where they put a baby in the middle and do one of these things, And there was a homie who had just, 2 weeks working for us right out of prison, tattooed, and been gone for a long time. He wandered in and he sees all these kids playing, and he goes to the teacher. He says, "Can I sign up for this class?" And she goes, "Sure, Do you have to have a kid to be in it?" And which is, again, sort of the idea here, But I suspect he had been a child, but I doubt very much that he had had anything that would resemble a childhood. And so something vicarious happens as he was watching all these kids play. And then we have our 4 businesses: Homeboy Bakery, Homeboy Silkscreen, Homeboy Homegirl Merchandise, and Homegirl Cafe, where women with records, young ladies from rival gangs, waitresses with attitude will gladly take your order. And we cater, so it's really quite gourmet if you're ever in LA. My favorite story at the moment, it happened about 4 months ago when Diane Keaton, Oscar-winning actress and movie star, comes for lunch at Homegirl Cafe. And it's quite the place for lunch. It's really packed and hard to get in sometimes even. And she comes with a regular, a guy who's been there, is there every week. And her waitress that day was Glinda. Glinda's sort of been there, done that, parolee, gang member, tattooed, been to prison. She doesn't know who Diane Keaton is. So she's taking her order, and Diane Keaton says, "Well, what do you recommend?" And Linda rattles off, a couple, 3 plates that she really particularly likes, and Diane Keaton says, "Well, I have that one right there." And then something dawns on Linda. She goes, I feel like I know you. You seem so familiar to me, like we've met somewhere. And Diane Keaton sort of deflects it, humbly. "Oh, gosh, I suppose I have one of those faces that people think they've seen before." And Glinda goes, "No, now I know. We were locked up together." Just took my breath away. As far as anybody knows, she hasn't been back, so she will. What we're all called to do, I think, it seems to me, is to choose to be what Alice Miller, the late child psychologist, calls enlightened witnesses. People who, through your kindness and tenderness and focused, attentive love, return people to themselves. It's not about holding the bar up and asking anybody to measure up. It's about showing up and holding the mirror up and telling people the truth. Their truth is your truth. You tell them this: you are exactly what God had in mind when God made you. And then you watch people become this truth. You watch people inhabit this truth. And no bullet can pierce this. And no 4 prison walls can keep this out. and death can't touch it because it's that huge. But often enough, you have to reach in and dismantle messages of shame and disgrace that are quite daunting and vexing and hard to address. I'm in 25 different detention facilities where I do Catholic services on a rotating basis every Saturday and Sunday. And typically what happens on Saturdays, I do 2 or 3 masses in the morning. Then I race home for a steady diet of baptisms, weddings, quinceañeras, exorcisms, you name it. I do it from about 1 to 5, and so I had this narrow window this one day, Saturday, this was years ago, when I was at baptisms at 1, so I had like 20 minutes. And I thought, well, I'm going to race over to my office and just go through the mail all by myself, peace and quiet. And there I was with the mail. And now it's about 15 minutes to 1, and this woman walks into the office. She's about 35 years old. I find out later her name is Lisa. She has never stepped foot in my office. And this is the moment she's chosen, when I'm sitting there trying to go through my mail. And it's not that I don't know her. I've certain everybody knows her. She's, at least everybody has seen her. She's kind of famosa. Prostitute, heroin addict, gang member. Something of a gritona. She's always screaming up and down First Street, screaming at just about anybody. Tumbling out of the Enlightened Cafe next door, which is something of a bar. Screaming at the payphones. Just let me stay tonight, just tonight. Presumably family members, I guess, or friends. And this is the moment she's chosen. She's never stepped foot in my office ever. And she walks right in. She plunks herself down. She sort of takes the room in with her eyes. And she says, I need help. Oh, I've been to about 50 rehabs. I'm known all over, nationwide. And then she kind of looks at all the photographs and studies them for a while. She says, I went to Catholic schools all my life. Elementary school. I graduated from Sacred Heart High School in Lincoln Heights. And then she gets quiet and she says, in fact, I first started to use heroin right after I graduated. And then she gets even quieter. She says, and I've been trying to stop since the moment I began. And I watched as she put her head up against the wall and her eyes became like 2 ponds, water rising to meet its edges, spilling over. And she cried and she cried. Until she finally leveled her eyes at me and she said, I am a disgrace. And suddenly her shame meets mine, because when I had seen her walk into my office that afternoon, I had mistaken her for an interruption. Just us. Only us. Only always been just us. I mentioned in the book, I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers, and we lived in a big old house. And I remember my mom used to say, don't go to the attic, which of course, for kids, as soon as she said this, we began to sell tickets to the attic right after that. So when she wasn't looking, we snuck up into the attic, and we discovered it was in a bunch of boxes and kind of planky, kind of precarious place, hence the prohibition, I guess. And we rummaged through a box, and we found this old album, this huge, big, thick clay album. And it had one song recorded on it, and the label was handwritten. It said Kathleen Conway, with my mom's maiden name. And then it said, Oh Holy Night, the Christmas Carol. So we rushed downstairs, and we put this little record on our little toy phonograph. And we kind of encircled the speakers, And we couldn't believe out of the scratchy thing came this elegant, amazing voice that our mom was an opera singer. We didn't know this. And we couldn't believe that the one who hollered at us belonged to this glorious voice, and so we just played the grooves off of this thing. And I remember there sort of was a mantra that was born for me that to this day matters to me. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared, and the soul felt its worth. And yeah, it's about Jesus, and yeah, it's about Christmas. But how is it not the job description of everybody seated here tonight? It's about appearing, and the soul feels its worth. Exactly what God had in mind. There's a homie who probably more resistant to my offers of help than just about anybody. I don't even know what his real name. We all call him Bandit to this day. We still call him Bandit. And he lived in Aliso Village housing projects, and I'd ride my bike in the middle of the night in the projects. I'd see him there running up to cars, selling crack cocaine, and he'd be walking away, counting his money, and I'd offer him a job or some help, and he'd say, "I'm okay." And then 15 years ago, he shows up in my office, and I couldn't believe he was there. I said, "Yes, es milagro that you're here. I can't believe it." And he said, "I'm tired of being tired." So I walk him over to a job developer, and as luck would have it, they located a job for him, kind of entry-level, unskilled, warehouse, first kind of job, low pay. Now, cut to today. Bandit runs the place. He's the supervisor of this place. He runs he's the chingon of the whole damn place, And he owns his own home, and he's married, and he has 3 kids. And not long ago, in late August, on a Friday in the afternoon, he calls me sort of breathless and paniqueado, as we say in Spanish, a little bit panicky. And he says, "Gee, you gotta bless my daughter." I said, "¿Qué pasó, mijo? Is she sick, or is she in the hospital or something?" "Oh, no. On Sunday she's going to Humboldt College." Imagine my oldest, my Jessica. She's going to college. But she's a little chaparrita, and I'm kind of afraid for her, because Humboldt, that's way up there, it's really far away. And could you give her a blessing before she leaves? And I said, "Well, sure, I'd be happy to." So I said, "Why don't you come tomorrow? I have baptisms at 1. So why don't you come, like 12:30, we'll do a little send-off." And sure enough, right at 12:30, Bandit and his wife and the 3 kids are there, including tiny little Jessica, heading for Humboldt. And so I decided to kind of, let's stand in front of the altar, and let's put her in the middle, little Jessica, and let's surround her, and everybody touch her, everybody connect to her, touch her arm, her shoulders, put your hands on her head even. And, I say, everybody close your eyes and bow your heads, and as the homies say, I do a long-ass prayer. And somewhere in the middle of this thing, I'm noticing that we've become chillones. We're all sniffling. And I don't know why we're crying, except for the fact that Bandit and his wife don't know anybody who's gone to college except me. Certainly nobody in their families. So, I wipe away my tears, and I look at, and we kind of joke about how mushy we all got, and I look at Jessica and I say, "So, what are you going to study at Humboldt College?" And she was very quick, "Forensic psychology." And I go, "Damn, forensic psychology." And Bandit says, "Yeah, she's going to study the criminal mind." And Jessica, very deadpan, turns and looks at her father and does one of these, points over. And he sees it and says, "Yeah, I'm going to be her first subject." So we walk up to the car, and big abrazos, and everybody piles in. And then Bandit hangs back, and I say, "Hey, can I tell you something?"